Hi, this is Margo. This is Sunday afternoon, June the 14th, 2020. I hope everyone is doing well, and this is my weekly update for YouTube for methane and climate and Arctic sea ice. So let's get started right in. Let's start with the CAMS, Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services. On the methane, I have Sunday pulled up for today, Sunday the 14th, the Arctic view and surface level pulled up. There's the color ledger at the bottom. So this is where it left off on Saturday. We've still been seeing this release around Severny Zemlya and also on the north coast of Alaska and popping back up, filling up the middle of the state. We're also seeing these lighter colors of green, which are waves of methane releasing from the Arctic through the sea ice all the way across as well. We're also seeing the Scandinavian countries fill back up with methane and different things. So the data is from today, and then the forecast period runs Monday through Thursday. So we can already see right off the bat that we've got some high releases still happening in around the Severny Zemlya right there off the coast of this group of islands, and then another high release here in the Kara Sea that's perpetual. It keeps bubbling up, and this is the Laptev Sea over here. We're seeing these lighter colors of green in waves moving across. This is the East Siberia Arctic shelf here, where the huge stores of methane are that Natalia Shukova tested and is famous for reporting on her research. And we've got this whole area filling back up and also moving into northern Russia there, and it's coming back here in the middle of Russia. Here you can see Alaska popping back up. There's a problem spot here in the North Atlantic that keeps coming back up. Now you're going to see from the NOAA data that it went down slightly this week. Now we had a sharp increase last week, and then it went back down slightly. So we'll look at that in a moment. Here's the North Pole view. Here's the Persian Gulf. Here's India. Here's China. Here's Korea. Here's Japan. Here's the UK and Ireland. Now look at this huge release in the North Sea. That's huge. Now watch, it's in the forecast period. See, it's filling up the North Sea, so there's something going on there. And we can see a very high release here in Canada, and then from the middle of the United States to the east, very high areas, high concentrations, and also throughout California, especially Southern California. Now let's look at the global view. You can still see it coming off the western peninsula in the Antarctic and also on this east coast of the Weddell Sea. And it's streaming out from South America. See the light blue, that's a higher reading than the dark blue is the background down there. Now let's look at the 500 HPA level. This is about halfway up in the atmosphere. It's about 18,000 feet. We can see it's not solid red across the Arctic. We're seeing more areas with orange peeking through and a lot of areas that are not covered in red in the northern hemisphere. So just eyeballing it, we can see that it's gone down. And now total column. Here it is over China. Here it is over India. And now we typically it doesn't really start on the rise until after we've hit summer, actually until July typically, but we're not seeing anything typical these days. So here's the methane from the NOAA data that I'm tracking now on a daily basis. This is for the 477/469 millibar reading. This is the METOP-1 satellite from the morning of yesterday, June the 13th. And the mean or average was 1,885 parts per billion. The high reading was 2380. So that's in the pink zone. The pink is between 2,000 and whatever the high reading is. And this is about 20,000 feet up. So it's about halfway. It's as close as we can get to about 500 HPA from cams. And this is the level I've been tracking since March of 2019. Now these white areas are missing data. Here it is in the afternoon. The mean was 1888 and the high reading was 2364. Here's the METOP-2 satellite for the morning. The mean was 1869. The high reading was 2406. And in the afternoon the mean was 1868 and the high reading was 2281. That's parts per billion. Here's our chart. Here's the spreadsheet where this is where the weekly readings. So here it is for the 13th, and I took the numbers I just called off and added them up and divided by 4 and come up with an average of 1877.5 parts per billion, and that's showing a decrease of 1 part per billion from the week before of 1878.5. So here it is, the little line where it's going down 1 part per billion. Now that 1878.5, that was a steep increase of 4.25 parts per billion from May 30th to June the 6th. That was a very steep increase for 1 week, and so now it's went back down just a little bit. So the overall change since March the 1st has been an increase of 1 part per billion. An overall change from March 1st of 2019 has been an increase of 20.25 parts per billion. But we've seen a large increase since the 1st of February. It really started going up a lot in February, and I'll show that down here. Down here is where I decided to start tracking this data on a daily basis, and I do report on this during the week for my Subscribe members. So they've already seen all of this data except for the new data that I'm showing today. So here it is from Saturday the 6th, and here it went down, and then it went up a couple of days, and then it's gone down, and then the reading for the 13th was actually an increase of 0.25 parts per billion from the day before. But it was an actual decrease overall of 1 part per billion this week. And in the last 18 weeks, it's gone up 14.25. Up here, February the 8th is where it started zipping up. That week after February the 8th, it started just massively increasing week after week for a while there. So that's where we're at with methane. I'll continue with some pictures I've taken for today. This is sulfur dioxide from CAMS for today. This is the global view total column. We're seeing this large reading off the coast of Ecuador and Peru over here in the Pacific Ocean. This is the 3rd day that we're seeing this, and it seems to be not dissipating at all. We're also seeing a large high reading over here in the Western Pacific to the east of the southern part of the mainland of Japan. This is the 2nd day for that. And we've seen some large earthquakes over here in this area that could be related to that sulfur dioxide, but we haven't seen any earthquakes in this area on the Eastern Pacific to correlate, to go along with this sulfur dioxide reading. So I'm thinking we're seeing plate movement without seeing earthquakes. And when we have some plate movement or magma rising, or the crust kind of shifting a little bit, there could be a pocket of sulfur dioxide that's been stored in the chambers in the rocks, and once they're moved a certain way, the sulfur dioxide shoots up. And when we see it at the 500 HPA level shooting up like this, that's a sudden release. That signifies to me a sudden release, and then it's hanging around in the atmosphere. And here it is over on the Western Pacific. But this is the most dramatic that we've seen in a while. Here's the East Tropic view. We can see here's China, here's India, here's Saudi Arabia, here's the Red Sea, here's South Africa. This is from mining operations down here. Here's that area in the Western Pacific. And you can actually see reverberations going out. You see the lines going out in a circle. That's like reverberations. Here it is at 500 HPA. So this is something that came up suddenly and it's still hanging around with it still in the red like that. Here's the Pacific view. We're also seeing some high releases or high readings here in Alaska. This is kind of a continuous thing because of the continuous earthquake activity, and there's volcanic activity there too. This is Popocatépetl in Mexico. Here's from Hawaii. This is from Papua New Guinea. There's a volcano there, and it's continuously high readings around the North Island of New Zealand. So there's, look at that. This whole ring of fire is we're seeing a lot of sulfur dioxide. Here it is at 500 HPA. Here's the South America view. We can get a close-up here, and it's not showing an earthquake signature. Usually if it's related to an earthquake, it looks like an exclamation point. So this is kind of a jagged, kind of a Rorschach ink blot. And here it is at 500 HPA. Now here, this could kind of look like an exclamation point curved around, but that's kind of pushing it. But the most intense area is here off the coast of northern Peru, and here's Ecuador. Here's the North Pole view. Here it is at 500 HPA. Here's the South Pole view. And here it is at 500 HPA. Now I've taken some pictures of earthquakes. Here's the Searles Valley Ridgecrest area in Southern California. There were 47 here this morning out of 403 worldwide. So that's still shaking. It's been almost a year since this started. It started on July 5th of last year, or July 4th, with the 7.5 down here. That's what got all this started. And it's still been going on every day. I've been taking pictures of this every day. And here in Nevada, this is the Tonopah area where we had that 6.5 about a month ago. And it's still, you can see the line of earthquakes here. And it's spreading out. This is the Bodie, California area and Mammoth Lakes area. So there are 148 earthquakes in this view. So that hasn't stopped. There was a 4.2 near Stanley, Idaho, and this was this morning at 5:11 this morning, and this is part of the Yellowstone magma chamber area, right over here. I'll come back to that one. Here's the Arctic sea ice thickness. This is the from the Navy website. Here's the thickness for today. There's the date up here. The date here, 6/13, is the day that they took the data and then they projected it for today. So this is the sea ice thickness, and the purple, the lavender, the white is 0, lavender is 0.5, the dark purple is 1 meter thick, the dark blue is about 1.25 meters thick, the dark aqua is 1.5 meters thick, moving into lighter aqua is 2 meters thick. The aqua moving into green is 2.5 meters thick. The green is 3 meters thick. The yellow is about 3.5 meters thick. And then when you get into the orange, that's 4 meters thick, and red is 4.5 meters thick. So we can see there's not much thick ice at all. When we zoom in here, where these lines cross, this is the North Pole at 90 degrees north latitude, and here's Novaya Zemlya, here's Svalbard, here's Franz Josef Land, here's Severnaya Zemlya, where the methane has been spewing up, and then this is this East Siberia Arctic shelf. This is the Kara Sea, this is the Laptev Sea. Here's the Bering Strait, that's clear. This is the Beaufort Sea here. So we can see that it's really clearing out around all of the coastlines, except for right here on the Canadian islands and northern Greenland. That's where the thickest is, and we're seeing some green, which is about 3 meters thick, and then a tiny bit of yellow, which is about 3.5 to 3.75 meters thick, and just a thin portion in the red. So we can see that from the midline up, most of this is in the purple to blue. So that's less than a meter, about 1.25. The blue is about 1.25. The dark purple is 1. The lavender is half. So from here up is less than a meter thick, and then the dark aqua is 1.5. So the dark aqua is coming down to here. And you know, it's not uniform. It's sea ice. You know, so it's going to be thicker in some places and thinner in some places, depending on how concentrated it is. So the thickest is right along here still. So there's that. This is the 30-day animation from the Navy. It starts on, let's see when it starts, May 23rd. So the data is May 23rd to today, and then it projects out a week into the future. So we can see huge melting in the last 3 weeks, and then the forecast, we can see it's melting so fast and kind of packing down. But it's really frightening to watch this. And look how the Baffin Bay is clearing out here, and the Hudson Bay, and here's the Bering Strait. Now this year we have the sea ice kind of in this Beaufort Sea area. Last year this cleared out really quickly, so it's a little bit different shape this year. I'm going to stop it. There it is on the last day. This is the projection for June the 21st. So a week from now. So we'll see, next week when I do my update, we'll see where we are. But it's very freaky to see this. I think that's all my pictures. Yep, that's all the pictures. Now, let's move on with the sea ice update. This is from the National Snow and Ice Data Center. Here it is on the daily, and I've chosen the blue marble view. And this is concentration, and we can see the blue. The darker it is, the less concentrated it is. And it's really, there's an area right here north of Greenland that's really falling apart that I'll show you in a minute. Here's the chart. Now this is for Arctic sea ice extent, and the blue line is this year. This dotted line is from 2012, and before this year, 2012 had been the lowest for sea ice extent, but we've been way below that all this year, this season. And this line, this dark gray line, is the 1981 to 2010 average. So we can see right now in June, well, from where they charted this, we're about tied with 2012. Now here's the Antarctic, and this is the concentration, and it's almost their winter solstice. When we have our summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, they'll have their winter solstice down there in the southern hemisphere. It's totally dark down there right now. So this is how the sea ice has come back, and the extent is looking pretty good. Here's the chart. Antarctic sea ice extent, and here's last year's. It was at the lowest, that line, and here's this year, the blue line. So we're above that. Here's the this is also from the National Snow and Ice Data Center. This is the Greenland ice sheet today, and this shows the melting of the Greenland ice sheet. The salmon color is where we're showing melting. Surface melt is in the salmon color. That's the daily melt. That's for June the 13th here. This is for this year, January 1st through June the 13th, and we can see that it's been melting around these bottom edges and up at the top as well, but a lot down here at the bottom or the southern end. Here's a chart of the melt extent. This red line is this year, so it jumped up, it melted. They had a huge melt at the end of May, and then it went down and went back up, and then they took a little nosedive, and then it hopped back up. So it just depends. Just depends on what the temperature is there. Now let's look at Climate Reanalyzer real quick. Then we're going to look at NASA Worldview. So here is the 2 meter temperature, maximum temperature for today. We can see over the North Pole, it's almost all above 0 degrees Celsius. Just a little bit that's in that the blue area right here to the north of Novaya Zemlya. So it's in the greens, and deep green, meaning it's really getting on up there, that's like 5 degrees Celsius. And the yellows, that's getting on up there to like 15 degrees Celsius. Here's the flat view. We can see some hot temperatures down and then cold temperatures right next to it. The jet stream is still very crazy. Very hot temperatures through northern Africa and Saudi Arabia and India. Very, very hot. Here's the 2 meter temperature anomaly. Now see, it's really gone way down. Now there are areas here around the coastline in Russia that are still a lot higher than normal, and including Norway, Finland, and Sweden, or Sweden and Finland. We're seeing a lot of methane come up right there. So, but look at here in North America, see, now we're back in the blue range, cooler than normal, and on the east side it's cooler than normal, and in the middle now it's warmer than normal, and got a line coming through Canada. So overall, worldwide, it's only up 0.2 C higher than normal. The northern hemisphere is up 0.7 C. The southern hemisphere is down 0.3 C. The Arctic is up 1.6 C. The Antarctic is minus 3.9 C. And the tropics are at plus 0.6 C. So the Arctic is still 1.6 C higher than normal, even though worldwide we're only 0.2 C higher than normal. So the heat seems to be concentrated in that Arctic region. Here's precipitation for today. The green is rain, and it's raining right here. You see the green there. And raining across Russia. Raining here on the southern coast of Greenland. Raining across Alaska, and so on. Let's look at the jet stream. Now this is crazy. See, loop, 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 loop. Here's the flat view. Look at this southern hemisphere. Here's the sea ice and snow cover for today. That corresponds to what we've been seeing. There are areas that are totally ice-free. I'm going to be showing you that on NASA Worldview. And here's sea surface temperature anomaly. Their latest date that they updated was for Thursday, June 11th. So on Thursday we're seeing high temperature anomalies here in the Kara and the Barents Sea. Also up here in the Bering Strait and in the North Pacific. So overall, worldwide, we're up 0.4 C, higher than normal here. The Northern Hemisphere is up 0.6 C. The North Atlantic is up 0.4 C. The Equatorial Pacific is up 0.3 C. The Southern Hemisphere is up 0.2 C. And the North Pacific is up 0.7 C. So the North Pacific is the highest. Now, I have NASA Worldview. The layer with the colors here is sea ice concentration. And here's the ledger over here. The white is where it's fully concentrated. Then as soon as you start seeing the pink, that's where it's starting to melt. Then when it starts going down into red, it's melting more, it's less concentrated. And then yellow, green, blue, it follows the rainbow colors. So this is where we're at today. With the melting. Now this area here, just to the north of Greenland, this has been a hot spot this week. Zoom out a little bit. I'm going to go back. Last week, was the 7th, so here's where we were on the 7th when I showed this, showing a lot of melting going on in the Baffin Bay and around Greenland, and mainly around the edges. There was still ice here in the Kara Sea and coming on around. So look at what happens as we progress during the week. There's the 8th, here's the 9th. Look at this, is where this huge melting started on the 9th. Here's the 10th. It's actually down into the green, which is 52% concentrated there. Here's the 11th. The 12th, 13th, and the 14th. So it's still not very concentrated. It could be that the wind blew it apart somewhat, because it's just like chunks. You know, if it's broken up, there's chunks of ice there. So the wind can break it apart, and as the satellite images, or you know, as they bounce the beams back and forth to try and get the sea ice, it might be not as pushed together on one day, and then it's pushed together more on another day, depending on the wind and the waves and things like that. So here's where it's at right now. This is today. So we can see the pink started all the way across, even at the North Pole. So remember from the Navy model that the thickest ice is all along here, right along in here, and here's the North Pole. So I'm going to turn that layer off now. And this is where we're at today. You can see some open spaces here. Now we're looking through clouds, so some of this might be a thin cloud cover, and then you have to discern where the sea ice is. Sometimes that's a little bit difficult to do. We can see this is sea ice. There are chunks of ice here. This is the ice edge here. This is Alaska. Here's Barrow. Here's the Beaufort Sea. Here it's coming. It's melted around here, down here. Here's Greenland. There's an area here, or right here. We're looking through clouds. There's no ice right there. That's a big cloud there. Here's the Baffin Bay. You can see how that's melted out this week. This area is just down to some big pieces of ice. That's a cloud there. So this is ice free right through here and around the bottom, around this side. Here's where the ice starts back up. Here's Svalbard. Here's Franz Josef Land. Here's the ice edge. And see, this is 80 degrees north latitude. Here's Severny Zemlya. This is where the methane has been spewing up. Here's Novaya Zemlya. This is a cloud, and we can see just pieces of ice here. This is melted here. Here's the Yamal Peninsula. This is the Laptev Sea here. The black, that's where it's totally ice-free and no clouds. See, we got a little bit of ice right there around the coastline. Now we're looking through some clouds. But that's what's going on. This is Wrangell Island. See how it's all broken up around there. Now I wanted to show you something else today. I prepared a comparison, since we're kind of at the same extent as 2012. I thought it'd be interesting to compare on NASA Worldview what the sea ice looked like in 2012 to what it looks like today. So I've set up a comparison, and what I've got here, when you, I don't know why that did that. Let's see. Sometimes it does that. It blacks it out. It was working before I came on. I don't know why it does that. Let's exit comparison. Let's go back. See if it's going to work. Okay. Here we go. Now it's going to work. I don't know why it does that. So what we have on the left is today, June the 14th, 2020. There's the left. That's what it is today. And on the right That says June the 13th. Let's see if I can get it to the 14th. Well, it's not going to cooperate with me. There's the 16th. Well, it's going to show the 13th. Okay, so that's close enough. So, this is where we were. Not much difference, huh? It's amazing the similarity between what the sea ice looked like in 2012 and this year, at this time of year. And 2012 was the lowest extent to date, but the advantage they had in 2012 was it was much thicker. Much thicker. And we don't have any thick sea ice to fall back on. So here's what it looked like on June 13th of 2012. Here's the Beaufort Sea. See? We're looking, there's no clouds right here. I mean, this is a really good view. This is almost identical. See how it pops off at Barrow and then comes back? And here it is for this year. And see how it had already started melting around these islands. Very similar. In fact, this year it looks more melted around the coastlines there. Now we're having to look through cloud, remember that. Now look, here's this year. Here's in this Laptev Sea. And there's 2012. Now that's a big cloud there. Here's the ice edge. Here's this 80-degree north latitude. So it's out to here a little bit. Here's 2012. Here's this year. Here's 2012. Here's this year. Let's look at Novaya Zemlya in 2012. Look, they still had some ice here. Almost no ice there. Look at the beaming. See the waves? And it looks like there was ice on this western side of Novaya Zemlya. A little bit. Maybe not. Maybe that's a cloud. So, I thought that was interesting. When I looked at this the first time, I was thinking that could almost pass for this year. It's not that much different. So, I thought that was interesting. So we'll stop the comparison. Wait. Go back. exit. Okay, here we are today. So this is what we have. So if this is any indication, with it being so much thinner, you know, we could lose most of the sea ice in the next couple of months, because it'll be melting through September, probably into October. And the sun's up all day long there. It doesn't go down. Now I'd like to continue reading out of the books of the Bible. I'm reading the prophetic books of the Bible. I'm on Ezekiel now, and started Ezekiel this week, and I'm on Ezekiel chapter 4. Thou also, son of man, take thee a tile, and lay it before thee, and portray upon it the city, even Jerusalem, and lay siege against it, and build a fort against it, and cast a mount against it. Set the camp also against it, and set battering rams against it round about. Moreover, take thou unto thee an iron pan, and set it for a wall of iron between thee and the city, and set thy face against it, and it shall be besieged, and thou shalt lay siege against it. This shall be a sign to the house of Israel. Lie thou also upon thy left side, and lay the iniquity of the house of Israel upon it. According to the number of the days that thou shalt lie upon it, thou shalt bear their iniquity. For I have laid upon thee the years of their iniquity, according to the number of the days, 390 days. So shalt thou bear the iniquity of the house of Israel. And when thou hast accomplished them, lie again on thy right side, and thou shalt bear the iniquity of the house of Judah 40 days. I have appointed thee each day for a year. Therefore thou shalt set thy face toward the siege of Jerusalem, and thine arm shall be uncovered, and thou shalt prophesy against it. And behold, I will lay bands upon thee, and thou shalt not turn thee from one side to another, till thou hast ended the days of thy siege. Take thou also unto thee wheat and barley and beans and lentils and millet and fitches, and put them in one vessel, and make thee bread thereof, according to the number of the days that thou shalt lie upon thy side. 390 days shalt thou eat thereof. And thy meat which thou shalt eat shall be by weight, 20 shekels a day. From time to time shalt thou eat. Thou shalt drink also water by measure, the 6th part of an hin. From time to time shalt thou drink, and thou shalt eat it as barley cakes, and thou shalt bake it with dung that cometh out of man in their sight. And the Lord said, Even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread among the Gentiles, whither I will drive them. Then said I, Ah, Lord God, behold, my soul hath not been polluted, for from my youth up even till now have I not eaten of that which dieth of itself, or is torn in pieces, neither came their abominable flesh into my mouth. Then he said unto me, Lo, I have given thee cow's dung for man's dung, and thou shalt prepare thy bread therewith. Moreover he said unto me, Son of man, behold, I will break the staff of bread in Jerusalem, and they shall eat bread by weight and with care, and they shall drink water by measure and with astonishment, that they may want bread and water, and be astonied one with another, and consume away for their iniquity. Ezekiel chapter 4. So I believe we're in the end times, and we need to keep our eyes on heaven and keep focused on doing the right thing and asking for forgiveness and repenting of our sins and walking away from things that we've been doing wrong, and hope to be found worthy to be in the kingdom of God when it comes time. So I'm praying for everyone. So until next time, God bless you. Go in peace, and I will talk to you soon. Goodbye.